influenced by the blatant lies about the 2020 election that were spread by the president and by his followers, and that's enough for the FBI director to suggest that it was a backup plan if they didn't get what they wanted on January 6th. Who's they?
He's speaking speculatively. He's playing into rhetoric. I don't agree with it.
There seems to be some indication in the filings this guy has some kind of severe autism, and we're not saying...
He was influenced by the same lies that all of those other people were.
Unless you're more qualified than me to take...
Accusing the Jewish government of genocide, that might happen.
Ed Stellum, hold on, I'm sorry. Ed Stellum is...
The person who planted that bomb was definitely an insider. It was not an anti-Trump person. It was someone planting a bomb to create a narrative that crazy MAGA people are trying to assassinate Kamala Harris.
I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear, and one day I'll be back in that space. But that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your deputy director, and we base investigations on fact.
Yep.
What's up, y'all? So this panel is going to be talking about the DC pipe bomb suspect who has confessed. And the reason that he gave was that he believed a lot of the rhetoric that the president was saying about elections being stolen and things of that nature. As always, we got Hate the Face, Scott Jennings, who is going to try to pivot and, make it seem like, there wasn't this conspiracy floating around here about who and why these bombs were planted. But let's check out the panel, and I'll be back.
Jay says that the DC pipe bomb suspect has confessed. Brian J. Cole Jr. was arrested earlier this month for allegedly planting 2 pipe bombs, one at the DNC and the other at the RNC on January 5th, 2021. There are some new court documents that are giving us insight into why. They say Cole said that he believed that the 2020 election was stolen. And quote, in the defendant's view, if people feel that, something as important as voting in the election is being tampered with, someone needs to speak up, right? So this case is finally resolved, it seems. But it's interesting that prior to this moment, all of these MAGA figures, including people in the government, people charged with investigating this, were claiming that this was some kind of false flag. Here's Kash Patel talking about this just right after this arrest was made. Listen.
In this instance, the prior administration had the same exact information that this FBI had access to and chose not to put the resources on target.
That, to me, is a far greater threat than any of the nonsense, a grandma taking a selfie inside of January 6th, and yet it just disappeared. It's almost like that was the backup plan if they didn't get what they wanted out of January 6th, which to me seems like a very clear setup operation.
And look, you're absolutely right.
A setup operation?
What are they talking about?
Yeah, good question.
It's really strange. Obviously I used to work for Kamala Harris, not when she was inside the DNC when this occurred. Our friend Simone Sanders was with her. There were people in that building who were working. There were people at the RNC who were working on behalf of democracy, or their perspective on democracy. And so for the people on the internet, the kind of the talkers, to then start to go into this conspiracy theory negates the fact that there were legitimate law enforcement agencies who were out trying to investigate this, trying to protect people who were electing a president, trying to hold on to our democracy, and on January 6th, defend the United States Capitol against people who were marching in there to defile the Capitol and stop a legitimate election process. What are they talking about? I can't even believe that this is...
Here's what they're talking about.
So, shut up. What he says is actually very important, because this whole kind of environment around January 6th just shows you what the Republicans, what MAGA actually thinks about democracy, what they think about the rule of law, that they spit out all of these conspiracies, right? And it's when you think about it, it's absolutely just almost sad at these conspiracies that MAGA just regurgitates. They listen, they take it as gospel, and it's always false. And I am all for a good conspiracy, but the conspiracies that MAGA comes up with are always false. When they said Antifa was the ones that were creating havoc in the crowds of January 6th to as agitators and things of that nature, and that these bombs were planted, but they were planted by some type of insider to make it appear that Kamala Harris was under attack by MAGA and by MAGA crazies. And all of these conspiracies always prove not to be correct. So MAGA is like 0 for 1,000 with all of these conspiracies, and these conspiracies normally turn out to be exactly what us normal people were thinking. Like, us normal people said that it was a Trumper, it was a MAGA that planted these bombs. That there was no conspiracy. The conspiracy was that these MAGA folks listened to Trump, and Trump got them activated and got them doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But let's get back to it.
Well, they're the ones who caught the guy and got the confession. So, while I certainly understand that there should be criticism and speculation as to why something is happening, but obviously that kind of speculation comes in a vacuum when you don't actually have any information that the government should have been providing, which is, for example, 4 years under the Biden FBI. They didn't get this guy. Why is that? I think that is a valid question. I think it's a conspiracy, but I think it is a valid question.
I think it is a valid question, but
before I even forget this, it is a valid question. Like, why did it take 4 years, and why was Trump's FBI able to solve this? But what I will say is this. I thought MAGA backed the blue. I thought MAGA loved the FBI. I thought MAGA loved law enforcement. So we pretty much are throwing law enforcement under the bus in an attempt to throw the Biden administration under the bus. You're throwing law enforcement agency under the bus. You're throwing the FBI under the bus, saying that they did not investigate this or it was shut down. And these folks either don't know what they're doing or don't have any integrity. But it's just ironic that MAGA and Republicans, they will throw law enforcement under the bus when it suits them. They threw them under the bus January 6th. They did more than throw them under the bus. They attacked them. But those are the folks who would say that liberals or Democrats are the folks who are against the police and are for defunding the police and things of that nature. It's just kind of ridiculous how they can just skip around like it doesn't even matter.
The FBI director just suggests that it was a backup plan if they didn't get what they wanted on January 6th. Who's they?
He's speaking speculatively. He was playing into rhetoric. I don't agree with it, and I don't think he should have done it. However, it's also important to note he's the one who stopped it.
It's irresponsible. It also kind of upends this whole narrative that January 6th was just this walk in the park and everybody was just coming for a picnic in the Capitol, and that those people have every right to be on the street as they are now because they've been pardoned. I mean, this guy had the same objective as all of those other people who stormed the Capitol, broke into the place, defiled the place for chanting that they wanted to hang Mike Pence. So that's what this upends. It upends that narrative as well.
Well, look, there seems to be some indication in the filings this guy has some kind of severe autism, and we're not entirely sure what sort of state of mind.
What does that have to do with anything, Scott? He has severe autism. No, he has severe Trump craziness. Forget the autism. He has severe Trump craziness that was provided by Trump. And you folks like you, well, not like you, Scott, because you actually said that Trump was horrible. Trump is terrible. You changed your tune immediately. But this is all MAGA's fault. So whether or not he had whatever, autism, mental health issues, it was all created by Trump and by those who provided cover and held Trump's water while he just spit all of these lies.
And he was in.
Well, what does that change? What does that change about his motivations? Because he was influenced by the same lies that all of those other people were.
I mean, unless you're more qualified than me to take an assessment of this guy's mental health or mental faculties at the time he decided to do this. Look, it doesn't appear to me, based on what the lawyers have said, that he was a political actor, that he has some kind of mental illness. And so, I
But
I don't know.
Well, why
Hold
is
on,
Don
I
Jr.
don't,
jumping to?
let me just say, as a factual matter, his attorneys have said that he has severe autism. We don't know of any mental illness. However, we also know that the defendant stated that he does not align politically with his family members and didn't tell them that he was going to a protest in support of then President Trump. So whether or not he had autism or not doesn't really change the fact that in the context of what was happening politically, he was influenced by the blatant lies about the 2020 election that were spread by the president and by his followers, and that motivated him and all of those other people to do what they did on January 5th and January 6th. That seems to be plain as day.
yeah, I mean, that's what he has said in the context of the fact that his lawyers have said he has severe autism. Again, I'm not excusing any of this.
Why do you keep bringing it up, Scott? If you're not excusing it, like you're missing every single point. The point is that the president lied, his followers lied, and this person, like so many other MAGA Republicans, they believe these lies. And this guy said something needs to be done. His done on January 5th was to place these pipe bombs. January 6th, something needs to be done is storming the Capitol. But it all starts with your President Donald Trump, his followers, Fox News, those who spread these lies are the total reason why this person, autistic or not, would actually have this type of behavior and get activated because of Trump and his lies.
I'm glad yours. This was something that was on the minds of everybody. Like, who in the world could have done this? What forces were at play? I mean, there was all kinds of crazy theories out there. Thank goodness they caught the guy. And I don't want to cast aspersions on the previous administration either. I'm sure they tried very hard, to put it together. But this is actually one thing that has gone right in the FBI under Kash Patel. They took a case that had gotten kind of cold, and they solved it, and it was important that they did that. And so it's ultimately a good thing, rhetoric aside.
Until his statement like that, tamper the jury pool, or the defense attorney for this guy is able to say, look at this completely irresponsible FBI director spouting off about cases as they're being investigated. It's the same thing with the shooting of Charlie Kirk, where they leaked all of this information and made these declarations publicly without actually knowing the facts first. Gosh, if I were a defense attorney for these folks, I'd be frothing at the mouth here because of how irresponsible this FBI has been. And when just talking about the rhetoric here, there's always going to be people with mental illness and difficulty. And unfortunately, in this society, we don't guarantee health care for people as a right. And so a lot of folks fall through the cracks. And we have a lot of guns, not in this instance, but we have a lot of people that are going to take crazy measures because we don't provide them with health care.
He's a victim of a broken healthcare system.
After
saying we don't have all the facts.
I analyze politics from a systemic perspective.
Come on, bro. Like, what she's saying quite clearly is that because we have a broken health system and because we have a lot of people that have mental health issues and we have a lot of guns that are just laying around and materials to create bombs that are just laying around, that we should be more responsible with how we are talking in the public sphere, how we are talking in terms of politicians and how they are describing each other. And that is the reason why. If the rhetoric was toned down, then maybe this person does not commit this crime. If Trump accepts his defeat, we're not even having this conversation. This person most likely is not as activated as he would be listening to Trump and his followers lies. So no, it has nothing to do with the broken health system. But because the health system is broken, we need to be better in terms of how we communicate our differences.
And I'm basically saying that my overall thesis is that that's why you need public figures to have some sort of responsibility about what they say. One of the things about this Trump era is that we have completely lost track of what civic engagement should be and what it means to be a leader and somebody that stands in front of a podium and represents this country. Between calling reporters piggies, between spouting off conspiracism all the time, between talking about these percentages, I'm going to decrease the drug prices by
Jason, genocide.
Ed Stellum, hold on, I'm sorry. Ed Stellum is to call it
Let me ask
genocide.
you about this, because what she
They're
just said,
Israeli.
the responsibility of leaders in our political system, I mean, that seems like something we can agree on. That there are always going to be people who are unstable, who have all kinds of different issues or challenges, but the responsibility of the people who are supposed to be with their faculties is to be responsible, not to spread falsehoods, not to lead people down dangerous roads. That seems like a perfectly reasonable thing.
I think that is in fact reasonable. I look at things good faith versus bad faith, and I think the fact that Kash Patel is the one and Dan Bongino is the one who helped solve this case and reinvigorate the investigation indicates that they believe what they said at the time that they said it. Now, it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it responsible, but the reality is they caught the guy, and that again is a positive. If they really believed that this was a conspiracy after looking at all the information, they would not have come out and solved this case.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, those comments were made after they caught the guy, so who knows? But some
Let me say this, and this goes without saying. After Charlie Kirk's killing, a lot of the conversation was, let's tone some of the rhetoric down, I think that we have to acknowledge what the rhetoric does. We have to acknowledge that we do have a country full of guns and a country full of people who unfortunately believe this stuff. They get they spiral out because of these things, and they end up acting out. So, but as long as we have Trump as a president, the rhetoric will never decrease. Trump does nothing but flame the fires. He does nothing but show how respectful he can be, how ignorant he can be, and that ends up being what all of these folks who may have issues, they take this and they run with it. So I want to just show this Dan Bongino video and talk about kind of what he's bringing to this political climate, which I think is just absolutely terrible.
That bomb was definitely an insider. It was not an anti-Trump person. It was someone planting a bomb to create a narrative that crazy MAGA people are trying to assassinate Kamala Harris.
So exactly what Dan Bongino is trying to say, and he, as being one of these folks who have these YouTube following, he does these podcasts, and he gets on here and he just spits nonsense. And he talks about these conspiracies. He's referencing this being some type of false flag, it being some type of person that maybe from the Harris camp that planted these things in order to get some type of like sympathy votes, to say that there were folks who were from MAGA trying to attack Kamala Harris, but it was false, it was made up, it didn't really happen. And what have we found out? We found out that that's exactly what it was. It was someone from MAGA that planted these bombs. But the total opposite of what he had been amplifying for years. And now this YouTube podcaster was second in command of the FBI and has resigned, I think effective January something. And he's going to go back to his podcast world to spread more of this nonsense. But here he is again.
He was influenced.
And I just want to just talk about just how we how we go back and forth in this political sphere, how we go back and forth with each other if we do have some type of differences. And it starts with the politicians. The politicians have to behave better. The politicians have to respect each other. The politicians have to work together. And if they are not willing to, then nothing's going to change. And it's just going to be a repeat cycle of this madness that's going on right now. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That helps a lot. Puts everything in an algorithm. Don't forget to like these videos, comments, and share if you think it's something that any folks might want to see and possibly engage. So until the next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.